Well, hey, friends, welcome to the From Busy to Rich podcast. This podcast exists to inspire advisors like you to increase your profitability and also the quality of your life, but not just for yourself, for those that you serve as well. So, Wes, for the better part of a decade, you've been working with, engaging with communities of financial advisors in a learning series called Transform. We reference on the show here quite often. I spent some time this last week with some folks here in Nashville, and they said, yeah, I'd been to Wes's program. We had a room with 30 advisors and said, who here's heard of Wes Young? Almost every hand went up, which is great. And I think that's a lot of transform in there. And we get asked about, what does it do for those that actually dive in and engage with it? So I know that we've got more information at wesyounglive.com, but there's some quick overviews there. But today I'd like to go deeper into the what and the why behind the learning series. And depending on when you're listening, the class might be really close to launching again. And if it's not, it'll show when it's launching next. But the next one we have for the airing of this show is February 22nd of 2024. And so you can register again at wesyounglive.com. And usually there's one in February and August. Am I right, Wes?
Yeah, twice a year.
Yep. So listen, what I find fascinating about the advisors that I know that have stepped out to create resources for other advisors is it's pretty rare. And I think it's rare because it's one of those things where if you're doing well enough for yourself, you usually don't stop to go, and I don't think this is a selfish thing. It's just the business does not really lend itself to you doing so well. You should help other people. Like generally it's like, no, like you just keep helping yourself. And again, that's not a bad thing. But it's outside the industry norm. So for that reason, I'd love for you to talk about, like, give us more understanding of what it is, why you created it. And ultimately, what does it result in? Like, what's the end of the story? What should people expect to get out of it on a really practical level?
Absolutely, Andy. There's a couple of good quotes that I think are going to tee up the thought process behind this really well. One of them is by Richard Koch, and I really like his writing. He wrote the 80-20 principle. The other one's by someone that in the financial business is somewhat lore, and it's his name is Ben Feldman. But here are the quotes. So Richard Koch says, it's not a shortage of time that should worry us, but the tendency for the majority of time to be spent in low quality ways. And then the other quote is this: we come into this business in a state of starry-eyed enthusiasm. Then we educate ourselves to a place of sophisticated confusion. We become our best if we can fight to the place of mature simplicity. And when I think about this highest level of what Transform is all about, it's about getting the advisor to their next level of mature simplicity, to where they're spending their time in high quality ways, and to where every single one in their atmosphere of influence is increasing profitability and quality of life. And there are a number of things that we work to do just that. It's over an 11 session process, not including the deep dive that we have in Austin for those who want to come. But the thinking behind this, there's kind of really 4 core imperatives, Andy, that we work on throughout this.
Wes, let me ask you real quick too, like even choosing that word imperative, like I understand it to mean like I always hear it in the sense like it's imperative you do these things, meaning they're non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Like, it's imperative you have gas in your car if you want to get somewhere, right? These are imperatives. So you've developed these 4 imperatives that then you're going to teach over the 11 weeks and then the in-person.
That's right.
Okay. All right. What are they?
Yeah. So let's take them one by one. The first one is we teach a transform mindset. And what this is, Andy, I mean, here's the reality. Everybody listening, including all the 3 of us that are hosting this, is all of us have been to classes. We've listened to podcasts. We've read books, gone to conventions, and those things have told us what to do. But how many times have we struggled with still not doing those things? The transform mindset deals with the part of us that still won't do what we know to do.
Okay.
And so here's kind of the way we think about it. All of us have, transform, the premise behind it is that while different isn't always better, better is always different. Mm-hmm. And in order to become to that next level of mature simplicity, where we're using our time in high quality ways, increasing profitability and quality of life, we are going to need to become something different than we are. And in order to do that, we have to deal with this dance between normal and new. Because our greatest opportunities to recognize our future possibilities is not about abandoning our normal. It's also not about rejecting new. It's about this tension between the two. And when you can understand it, and when you can see it and understand the alarm bells that should go off at certain times, you will no longer just be a consumer of information. You will be an executor of the information into a meaningful way over and over again throughout the life of your practice.
Right.
And here's some thoughts around this, Andy, is all of us, think of it this way. All of us have a normal. We have a current way we go about making progress. And if you were to follow me around and audit my life, you'd be able to figure out, okay, what are my habits? What are my narratives I use to move people from one place to another? What is my presence like when I show up in different meetings and different atmospheres? What's my education, training, technology that I move with, products and services? All these things that cobble together, and you could make a million subcategories. They make my normal. They make my current way of going about making progress.
And everyone has a normal. Everyone has, and also I would also submit, because you said something earlier about you could see how everyone progresses. For many people, progressing is just existing. It's actually not. It's not an accelerated growth pattern. It's literally just like, and I don't mean to be crass, but like there's people that they're in a sort of vegetative state. They're just literally alive, but they're not able to even contribute anymore. Like that's what happens with age and, certain situations. So for some people, progression is just like, well, I made it through the day.
Yeah.
Right. I made it to the next paycheck. Right. That's normal for some people. Obviously that's not the goal.
Yeah.
Right. In order to get out of that state or that level of quote unquote progression, which is just existing, you're saying we have to normalize that new things happen instead of normalizing same old.
Yeah, because you've got this normal, and then you've got new, and new's a transformed way of doing a lot of that same stuff. And so the dance here is that our greatest opportunities are to recognize future possibilities. Not about necessarily abandoning the normal, but also not about rejecting new. It's about a constant tension between the two. And when it comes to the transformative mindset, which is a big premise, this is probably one of the longest ones we're going to stay on for a second, Andy. It is constant throughout this because it is the single, whatever you're trying to transform in your life, having this mindset and being able to understand what the alarm bells are that should serve as guardrails to get you back to the tension between normal and new are critically important. And just to give you a few examples of this is, like I think the gravitational pull of people and organizations is to defend the way they've always done it.
Yeah.
And I think there's two main reasons. In fact, one funny story about this, Andy, is Howard's story. Howard, who will be familiar to you in the future here, is he was in the coffee business back in the 1980s, and they would source the coffee at these small farms. They would roast it in this custom way, and then they would sell it for consumption at home or to restaurants. And he loved the business. He went overseas on a vacation to Europe, fell in love with the idea of the coffee shop. And loved the baristas, loved the smells, loved how it took this high-end commodity purchase to a unique community experience. And he thought, this might be next.
Because this is like 70s, 80s. I mean, coffee shops are everywhere now.
Yeah. This is before the day of the sidewalk coffee shop here in the States. So he came back, told his employers, guys, this could be the next new thing. And while they liked him and respected him, they did what most people have the tendency to do, particularly if they've had any level of success, is they begin to defend their existing set of habits. They said, Howard, we're not really interested in like putting a bunch of time and energy and money into this untested idea. We're kind of the giants in our little niche here. We're going to compete with what got us where we are. Howard, undeterred, went out and started his own sidewalk cafe, coffee shop experience. It was called Il Journal. And it was an enormous success. Within like 16 weeks, he had 4 of them. He would actually buy his former employer, and he would drop the Il Journal name and take on theirs, and they're known as Starbucks. So
yeah, that's a little easier because I have no idea what that word is, and you said it 3 times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good. And listen, good move, Howard.
The crazy part about that story is the former owners of Starbucks weren't stupid. They had built a really successful organization. they just fell victim to what so many people do. And we often do it several times in our life is they begin to defend their existing set of habits. Howard Schultz was not about abandoning everything the company was built on. He said, yeah, let's still source the coffee. Let's roast it in a custom way. But instead of just selling it at a commodity purchase, let's create a community experience. And it became one of the greatest business success stories in history.
Did you see him testify in front of Congress last year?
No.
And I'll say this because normalizing the new is part of his DNA. Because I might get a little political, but I don't think anyone's going to disagree with me here. Is that one of the things that they kept saying he was a billionaire, and they use it as a derogatory term. And he said, listen, you can look this up, folks. He goes, I'm growing tired. We need to stop talking about billionaire. He's like, yes, I'm a billionaire. And I'm not ashamed of that. He said, I've given hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people jobs and education. He said, and I didn't know this about him. He said, I grew up in public housing.
Wow.
He's like, I wasn't, and when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay. This guy's built different, right? He's not there because it was given to him. It went, he went out and he got it.
Yeah.
And yes, certainly other people came alongside him, but he was not born, Howard Starbucks, and his dad gave him the company. You know what I mean? He was, he's like, I'm a product of a system that allowed me to grow, and I've been able to help other people through that. And I made a bunch of money doing it. Yeah. Why is that a bad thing again? Remind me why it's a bad thing that I have money and I help, and the reason I bring it up is not the billionaire part of it or whatever. It's that, you didn't let your normal.
That's right.
Shape you. Other than you said, I don't want that normal. I want a different normal.
Transformative mindset, which believes better's possible. And in order to better, I need to activate on normalizing new things into my life. And so that we deal with the part of the person that still won't do it. And there's a couple of things just to note, and then we'll move on to the next, the remainder of them, which are much faster than this one. But I wanted to hit it. Is there are a couple things that pop up. Fear is one, because as much as we want things to be better. I mean, you and I were built to make today better than yesterday, tomorrow better than it is today. That's in the DNA of people, anybody that would jump into a class like, or community like Transform. But as much as we want things to be better, even more so, we don't want them to get worse. And it's the first part of that statement, different isn't always better. Better is always different. It's the different is always better, because you could tell a story, Andy and Justin, about things that you tried, and it made your life temporarily worse. Mm-hmm. Not better. And it's like we talked about last week in closing time, is people really don't resist change as much as they resist loss. They resist that, like I said, your boss invites you in and says, I got a change I want to make. I want to give you a raise of $50,000. Nobody hates that.
I love change.
They love change, right?
Bring the change.
So it's not necessarily about the change. It's about that the change may lead to loss or discomfort. Right. And so when you see, like, different is always better is always different. You've got to know. And if you feel that fear of loss, that's where you need to serve. That's an alarm bell. And I'm not going to let that prevent me from seeing and seizing the thing that's going to actually potentially move me in the direction of better, because, it's the definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. And I always like to upgrade that. I say, keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect better results, because you can keep doing the same thing over and over again and your life can get worse. When's the last time you rented a movie from Blockbuster Video? Right? Kept doing the same thing over and over again, but went in reverse.
Yeah.
I think fear is a guardrail. And then the other one, I think, is as it relates to this transformative mindset that is a guardrail, is fatigue. Fatigue, because change is like remodeling a house while you're living in it.
Yeah.
You ever done that, Andy? You ever remodeled
I mean, listen, let's make it a smaller scale. You ever try to reorganize your kitchen and then make a meal? You're like, this is hard because I'm trying to use this thing. You know? But yeah, it's difficult. It's why you don't change your tire while you're riding the bike. You got to stop. You know what I mean?
It requires weird, different energy. Your life is uncomfortable as you're doing this new thing that's not a part of your muscle memory, not a part of your normal, because there is always a cost to change. But boy, is there a cost not to. And again, you don't want to wake up beautifully prepared for a world that no longer exists. So when you can understand and see that and call them out, the elephants in the room of fear and fatigue, it helps keep you in the transformative mindset and actually digest the things that are on your plate and utilize them towards energy. So So that's the first one. We got 3 more to go. I promise the rest of them won't take as long, but I did want to hit that one pretty deep.
Yeah, but I will say that I want to wrap that section with this thought, which is that the challenge of this is you have to start thinking about the way you think, and start thinking about things that are automatic. And it's really hard to think about things that are automatic because you're going to say, why'd you do that? And you're like, what did I do? What? Because you don't even think about doing it.
Yeah.
Right? You're just doing it. So it does take a different level of intention, and it usually takes someone on the outside helping you see those things, which is why the class exists. So what are the next ones?
Yeah. So the next one is the next imperative is we're going to show you and deliver to you an annual engagement process that is so attractive, Andy, that clients not only want to come aboard, but they want to stay aboard in a fee-based annual retainer relationship. Because, and in addition to being great at the transactional work of products and asset management, they recognize you as transformational in helping them think and see and ultimately move more powerfully. Ultimately, it is you. We create an engaging process where you have advice worth paying for, and they love to pay for that advice. So for a lot of people, this is a brand new space or brand new area of opportunity that they've not yet engaged in, and it is a game changer in your enjoyment and your profitability and your impact, Andy. Yeah. So the process. So here's the other part, though. It's not only it's an annual engagement process that's also so attractive, it makes asking for referrals irrelevant because you already get so many people asking to meet with you as a result of the process itself. The process is so good. If you can imagine, it's kind of like whatever you're cooking, the fragrance going from it out smells so good. Yeah. People come to you. You ever walk by one of those Annie Ann's pretzel or Annie Ann's like Cinnabon things?
Man. Yeah.
In the airports. They aren't walking around going, hey, you should come in here. You know what they do? They turn on the oven and they cook. They do their process. It's so attractive. You're like, what is that? I got to go. Yeah. I want to.
You'll never find those things like in a corner way off in the distance. They're right in the middle.
That's right.
Just pulling people in. I'm not even I was like, I don't even know how I ended up in line. I'm in line. I'm giving you my money. I don't. And they're like, we know. We just started cooking. Yeah.
Yeah. So an annual engagement process is the other thing. And it does those things that are unique. The third imperative is we're going to help you see and seize new areas of opportunity. And let me give you some examples of this. One of them is just going to be in the area of tax awareness. Because we grow up in this business and we learn tax strategies and different tips and tricks that ultimately lead to a product sale. Most people in this game are just not very tax aware of all the other ideas that exist that could be so beneficial when coordinated with the client CPA that before you ever invest $1, you're talking about a 37% return if you're in Texas where there's no state income tax on ideas. So we're going to give you ideas. And again, tax ideas are so portable. They're so memorable that that's like that fragrance going out. People carry them. Like we've had clients call us that are like, hey, I want to meet with you. You work with so-and-so. And they told me that I could, and they usually have a tax idea. And I'm like, yeah, well, we do a whole lot for him. And so this is a game changer because it really does put you in a space that most people, they're not even aware a game is occurring. And the other area too, there's we have hundreds of narratives that we'll talk about that we give them to be able to help move people in the direction of increased profitability and quality of life. But the other area that I find is overlooked is in the area of estate planning. And we call it estate planning 101, estate planning 102, to where even if a person doesn't have a taxable estate, there is so much value you can deliver in those areas. Because here's, in both the income tax and estate planning area, you've got a couple things at work. Is CPAs, for the most part, this is, not everybody, but they're primarily in the business of tax preparation. And so they'll prepare your return on time. It'll be compliant. What they're not in the game of is proactive tax planning. And again, like I said, there's exceptions. My CPA is an exception to that. He's in proactive tax planning, but the majority of them, they aren't in that game. And so when you can be that interpreter where you can like say, hey, there's 8 ideas that other clients like you have used. Let's go talk to your CPA and see if they work. Most of the time the CPA is going to go, yeah, they'll work. And the client's always like, why didn't they bring that up? I said, because that's not their role.
Yeah.
So Also in there is when it comes to how many people, Andy, do you know? And Justin, I'm curious of your input on this too. When you ask him, hey, tell me about your will, that say, yeah, we've been meaning to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's one of those areas that just there's not a lot of good execution taking place. So we have a process by which not only we talk about the framework, but we make it really easy for the client to go get those documents in place that they need. And I'm going to give you a less than 10-minute conversation where you can have one of the most advanced estate planning conversations that people actually understand. And if they have estate tax situations, they're going to go, man, these people are smart. They know things. And I want to engage with them. I want to work with them. So we give you new narratives. Those are just two examples. We increase your ability, your opportunities to help.
Mm-hmm.
Last area, and then we'll kind of talk about next steps and things like that, is optimize their organization and structure capabilities.
Yeah, because you can't do all these things without changing some things structurally.
You
right?
bet.
Right.
You bet.
So it's like, great, these sound great, but I can't do that in the way that I currently operate or my team is. And you're like, you're right. That's why we're going to talk about this. So some of this is understanding the people you're hiring, what the skills they need to have, what are the conversations you need to have to find and hire the right people. And it's not, oh, they wanted a job, so you give it to them. That is not how you qualify someone, right? And then what are some of the tools that you can use in order to scale this? These are things that you have used and helped hundreds of advisors implement inside of their companies, inside of their systems. What else is included in that? Is that everything in the optimization?
So if you think about the optimization of organization structure, the best analogy I can give you is that of a bicycle. So think about this. Every bicycle has two wheels. It's got, pedals. It's got handlebars, some kind of sprocket system. All bicycles are organized the same. If it has three wheels, it's not the organization of a bicycle, it's a tricycle. You can have two bicycles that are organized the same, but they're structured differently. So one bicycle may have really soft, knobby tires, good for going off road. The other may have really hard, smooth tires, good for going on flat surfaces really fast. Neither one's bad or wrong. One is just more applicable for where the rider's trying to go and the rider's skill level. So if you were to give me my organizational structure today, when I was brand new, it would have been like, I'm flying by myself on a 737. It just would not have made any sense, and we couldn't have kept it going. I needed a tricycle to get started. So what we try and do here is give you the tools to equip you to understand what are you structured, how are you organized now, how are you structured. And then what's your next change? Is it just a structural change, or is it an organizational change? Do you need to go from the bicycle to the car? And what does that mean? So we talk about a lot of things, Andy. One is, as you mentioned, team awareness and development. Best leaders, best teammates in the world are aware teammates and leaders. And there are assessments that you can engage in, things like the Working Genius, Colby. We go through a lot of that equip you to be a better teammate and leader, and honestly live a lot more profitable and higher quality of life. Technology tips and tricks. There's a ton of we talked about this last week, but if your job is to hit nails into a roof and you're still using a hammer, you might want to upgrade to a nail gun, because that's going to allow you the capacity to do that at a much more efficient level. There are tons of technology tips and tricks out there. We operate and have many years before COVID as a completely remote office, and all of our teammates are all across the country. So we'll talk to you about if that's appealing to you. Great. We'll tell you how to do it. Also, how to do it brick and mortar. Ideal calendar, ideal year. There is so much with cadence throughout a year. Usually, it's like people repeat the same week over and over again. There is no off season. Well, we teach you how to have a healthy off season and healthy game season, and then what you're doing in between, to where the whole team's operating well together. So it's a bunch of stuff like that around organization and structural capability. Yeah,
and it's a massive disadvantage if someone says, "Hey, here are the goals you need to achieve. You should climb up this mountain, and let me show you the view." And you're like, "Okay, but what equipment do I need?" Like, I don't know, but it's that mountain is awesome. You're like, okay, I'm going to die. I'm going to quit. You know what I mean? So you don't want that. So yes, some of this is just practical. Some of it's being in the right mindset, but also some of it is what tool should I use, right? When should I meet with people? How often should I meet with people? Things like that. So again, the Transform series can be found at westyounglive.com. There's 11 sessions that are live, remote sessions via Zoom. This time around, starting February 22nd, and it's generally on Thursdays. And then there's dailies. There's a series of daily sprints. Explain those.
Yeah. So after we finish the first 7 sessions, which are all about a week apart, then we do 1 week of daily sprints. It used to be called the bonus rounds before COVID. I'm sorry, we called it bonus rounds after COVID because COVID hit, and we used to do sessions 8 through 11, basically, in what we call the deep dive. That was everybody flying to Austin, and we do them as an optional kind of all-together workshop. And then COVID hit, and we couldn't do it. Well, we still wanted to deliver some of that value, so we just created the sprint week, where you had about an hour a day for a week in a row.
I love that.
For those.
Yeah.
And we kept it after COVID, and we just call it the bonus rounds now. And then we still have the deep dive at the end that people can come to as well.
Love it. Well, there is such an impact. I just spent time, like I said, I think there, maybe last week, about spending some time with advisors in person. It's irreplaceable, right? I mean, I know you're a fully remote office, but you still get together in person at times because it matters. So we do want people to attend live. That's when things really happen. And then also there's an in-person component at the end. And also what is the element of the team? How does that involved?
Yeah. So we love for the advisor to have their team participate. So because, it's like the worst thing. You go to a meeting and you get all these great ideas, and your team is like scared to death for you to come back from the conference because you're like, we're changing everything, and here's 7 new things that we're going to do.
Right.
If they can be a part of it, and Andy, not only we love for people to attend live, the web-based workshops, but then every week right after that, they have a recording of what we talked about, so they can go back and not only if they had to miss, but even more so they can renew their mind, because we need to be reminded more than we need to be instructed. And so it gives them the ability to do that, and they can do it with their team. Yeah, so that they're not just going this alone and having to drive it. They get to participate in it.
Yeah. So again, it all sort of culminates in a deep dive day in Austin, which is a great city to hang out in. And I have talked to many people. I talked to someone just yesterday that said, hey, I went to that program. It's great. And so again, I want to encourage you to go to westyounglive.com. The next one is in February, and would love for you to transform many of the habits that have gotten you here. That's great, but they're not going to get you there where you want to go. And again, the goal of Transform is the same goal of this podcast. And we'll wrap with this, which is we want to help you increase your profitability and the quality of life, not just for those you serve. And so that's why I want to encourage you to go to westyounglive.com, check out the Transform series. If you're listening to this after February 22nd, 2024, they'll have another one. So go there, westyounglive.com, and check it out. Justin, Wes, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Andy.